Hello there. Have you got a story to tell? I'm Merryn and I've been invited by Aberdeen City Libraries to lead this workshop for Book Week Scotland 2020 on the art of storytelling, especially as a way to share our life experiences. It is open to all, free to you, and funded by the Scottish Book Trust. Key resources and websites that I mention will be included in the notes below this video, as well as the text of the whole workshop for accessibility. A short intro to me. I am a writer of fiction, drama, poetry, and non-fiction. My stories and plays have been broadcast on BBC Radio Scotland and Radio 4, and my articles have featured widely. My first novel, A House Called Askival, is set in India, where I grew up, and my second, Of Stone and Sky, is set where I now live in the upper Spey Valley. That's coming out with Polygon in a more manageable form in spring 2021. My current project is called The Hidden Fires, a Cairngorms Journey with Nan Shepherd, and is a response to her extraordinary book, The Living Mountain. We're all storytellers, whether we realize it or not. All of us tell stories to one another all the time. It might be a joke or an experience at work or a memory from childhood. But many of us want to capture some of the stories of our lives in writing. And that's what this workshop will help you to do. During lockdown, both my mother and my mother-in-law, both in their 80s, have been writing down important memories and sharing them with the family. These have been special windows for us, not just into their lives, but also the times and contexts in which they lived. They are a very personal people's history and wonderful in the way they offer a unique voice and vision. But how do you do it? Where do you start? It can be overwhelming to contemplate writing your life story and stressful to decide what to include. So don't stress and don't set out to write your whole life story. This workshop is an opportunity to explore some themes and starting points which will give you good raw material to develop further and good ideas for more pieces to write next. This is mainly for your own pleasure, possibly to share with family and friends if you want to, and maybe for publication somewhere, sometime, but we're not going to worry about that for now. We're just going to have fun with the writing. So to join in, you will need paper and pen and a timer that rings. Avoid writing on a computer if you possibly can. In my normal workshops, some of the best bits are the banter and laughs between the participants and the times of reading our work to each other. We're not able to do that today, unfortunately, because of coronavirus, but I would encourage you to connect with others, to share work, ideas, and encouragement online, and hopefully soon in person. Your local library might be able to help with finding a writing group, or go to the Scottish Book Trust site and search for writing groups in Scotland. As we go along, whenever it's time to do a writing exercise, you can just pause the video for as long as you need and then resume. Now, don't just listen while you're doing the dishes or walking the dog. Actually sit down and do the writing. The only difference between real writers and those who say they want to be is that real writers write. Don't worry if these exercises don't immediately grab you or don't seem to draw out your best ideas. Give everything a go, and I guarantee by the end, you will be pleasantly surprised at the things that emerge and the ideas that are sparked. My mother told me she was amazed at how much came back to her once she started to set down the memories. Don't wait for the material before you write. Start writing it and it will materialize. You are not taking dictation from some muse up there. You are writing the story into being. So, to begin, let's limber up with some quick-fire writing exercises. We're going to follow the approach recommended by Natalie Goldberg in her life-changing book, Writing Down the Bones, Freeing the Writer Within. I highly recommend this to anyone needing a shot in the creative arm, whatever stage you are at. She talks about the need to commit to writing practice. We accept the need to practice if we play the clarinet or do triple jump, so why not writing? It is a craft that needs honing with frequent and committed practice. How? Well, the paradox is that to experience freedom as a writer or any artist, we need to submit to a little discipline. That's not just the discipline of doing it regularly, but also of following some rules. I know some people hate rules, especially around creativity. But here's the thing. Our greatest freedom lies within our strongest frameworks. Martha Graham, the great grandmother of contemporary dance, which was all about breaking new ground and freeing movement from the constraints of traditional forms, she still took her dancers through routine physical training. Freedom to a dancer means discipline. That is what technique is for, liberation. So, here are the writing rules for today's exercises based on Natalie Goldberg. You might want to write them down. Number 1, keep your hand moving. Avoid pausing. Number 2, don't worry about spelling, punctuation, grammar. In fact, don't worry about anything. Number 3, don't cross out or correct. Don't edit as you go, just keep going. Number 4, lose control. Don't think or plan, just go with the flow. You are free to write rubbish. Number 5, go for the jugular. Don't pussyfoot around or censor yourself. Dive in deep. The whole point of these rules is to get past the layers of social pressure and your own mental critic to the deeper, uncensored part of you that is both more playful and more dangerous, more imaginative and more true. There are 2 forces involved in the creative process, the creating and the crafting. They're not separate or in opposition, and they don't necessarily happen in discrete stages. In a true artist, they work together. However, as we grow up and lose our childlike openness and instinctive responses, we get shackled by self-doubt, criticism, and fear. The impulse to invent is quickly strangled by the impulse to perfect. So, in our writing practice, we need to put the more critical crafting side of us to one side. It will be very useful to us later if we want to develop a piece of work, but it just won't help us at the start. That's why the first rule is to keep your hand moving. Imagine your writing hand is the creative part of you, and so long as it keeps moving, the critic hand can't get a word in. It can't jump down and stop you to point out that that was a stupid idea or that that's not the way to spell facetious. This may seem to contradict what I was saying before about the necessity of discipline to make art. But the point is, there is enormous discipline required to simply turn up and do your writing practice, to continue for the set time, and to shut out the critical voice until you're finished. We'll let it back into the room when we're ready, but just not now. It's certainly not allowed in during this workshop. So let's get going. Paper at the ready and pencil sharpened. I will tell you how much time you have for the exercise so you can set your own timer. And then I'll give you the topic and say, go. You will pause the video, write like fury till your bell goes, then turn it back on again in a lather of sweat and excitement, and we shall resume. If you can't write about a particular topic for any reason, that's fine. Just change it and charge on. For example, If the topic is about school and you never went to school, go for supermarket instead or the circus. Don't think about it. Grab any idea and run. Right, roll up your sleeves and remember the rules. Number 1, keep your hand moving. 2, don't worry about anything. 3, don't cross out or correct. 4, lose control. 5, go for the jugular. Right, for the first exercise, you better write fast because you only have 1 minute. Set your timer. The topic is my name. Go. Hello again. How was that? Hopefully you were forced to stop in the middle of something interesting. Good. You can go back and finish it later. For exercise 2, you will need to write for 3 minutes. Fingers on timers. The topic is in the wardrobe. Go. Welcome back. Did you get to the back of that wardrobe? Did you go through it? Or did you get stuck? Don't worry. Remember, not worrying is rule number 2. We'll try something else. This time you have 5 minutes. Timers. The topic is Bedtime Ritual. Go. How was it doing those exercises? Reflect for yourself. What was difficult? What was surprising? What did you learn about your writing process? Which one of the rules was hardest to stick to? What did you learn about yourself? Now we're moving on to explore some more possible themes for your life writing, always beginning with the same stream of consciousness spurt, and then when you have a few starters, you can choose ones you would like to develop further. If any of these topics don't appeal, you can go forward in the video till you find one that does. On the other hand, it can be revelatory to write outside our comfort zone, so maybe just give it a go anyway. Although all these topics are about your life, you can choose to write some of them from different points of view. How about get inside the head of the bully? Or your favorite childhood toy? Your worst teacher? 3 pointers. 1, write a story about you. Don't get into generalizing or philosophizing. Tell us what happened with the bully, not the psychological theory for why it happens. We don't want abstract ideas, we want actual experiences. 2, instead of report-like information, get under the skin of the story. Evoke the tactile experience. Appeal to the senses. Be specific. Anchor it in its particular time, place, and culture. Instead of saying, my mum was a great cook and we ate well, tell us about the smell of the spices and the oil on your hands as you ate hot parathas. Number 3, don't get bogged down with background or explanation. Jump straight into action. What's happening? Who's there? Where are we? Okay, for the next few topics, I suggest you give yourself a minimum of 5 minutes, but stop at 10. That's so you can write enough to see if it holds potential for you, but not too much, so you've got time to try several of these. You don't have to do them all in one sitting, of course. You could do one a day until you're done. That will be a good way of establishing a regular writing practice for you. And if you know you only have to do it for 10 minutes, you are more likely to stick to it. But at whatever point you stop today, I do suggest you whiz on to the end of the video for the wrap-up comments before you go. Right then, grab a cuppa if you like, get more paper and limber up because we're going in. Next up, origin story. Where did it begin and why? Not the things you remember, but what you have been told. Perhaps there are different versions. You can choose to tell it as if you remember. The immortal opening line of Kate Atkinson's Behind the Scenes at the Museum is the newly conceived narrator saying, "I exist." Hiding place. First love. The school walls. Something broken. My mother's shoes. The dirtiest part of our house. A wild place. The meal. An animal came. Leaving home. Once you've had a go at these starters, choose one that you're itching to take further. You can just pick up where you left off and keep going in stream of consciousness, which I would recommend, or you can start again at the beginning. But if you start again, don't be too picky just yet. Keep the critic out of the room. This is still a first draft. You still want to go with the flow, not worry or judge, and try not to edit too much. Give yourself 15 minutes to take that story further. If you start to run out of steam, just pick another topic. You might come back to that one later. Gradually build up a small stack of stories. Keep writing them for yourself, not worrying yet about a possible audience. If that's as far as you take the exercise, grand. If it's been enjoyable, therapeutic, inspiring, revelatory, or just a bit of a giggle, then hurrah, mission accomplished. Writing is good for us, regardless of whether anyone else ever reads it. As Anne Lamott says in her superb book, Bird by Bird, Some Instructions on Writing and Life. Writing has so much to give, so much to teach, so many surprises. And that's the quote that you will find if you're searching it on the internet. What you won't normally find is the sentences that go before it in her book, where she says, "I try to warn people who hope to get published that publication is not all that it is cracked up to be, but writing is. Writing has so much to give, so much to teach, so many surprises." However, if you want to take your writing further, if you want readers, then there are lots of ways forward. This workshop is not about all those possibilities, but some things to explore. Some redrafting and editing yourself, that's a really important process and where the crafting side of writing comes into play. The critic can come tiptoeing back into the room for this. In fact, we welcome it. There are a gazillion books, websites, and groups out there that can help you with this stage. Secondly, getting into a writing group. Might just be one other person or a large established group. Again, ask at your local library or look on the Scottish Book Trust site. Thirdly, sharing your stories with family and friends. This all depends, of course, on the nature of the stories and the nature of your family and friends. Only you can know if this is a good idea. Finally, looking for publication outlets. Again, there is a great deal of information out there advising how to do this. It all depends on the kind of thing you have written and how far along you are. But because of the internet, there have never been more opportunities for getting published and being involved in a writer community. So start exploring. Most importantly, keep writing. Every life is teeming with stories. Get on and capture yours. Thank you for taking part in this workshop for Book Week Scotland 2020, to Aberdeen City Libraries for organising and Scottish Book Trust for funding. I really hope it has been helpful and inspiring for you, and I'd love you to stay in touch. You can find out more about me and my work on my website, merrynglover.com, where I'd love you to sign up to my newsletter or follow my monthly blog about my writing life in the Cairngorms. I can also be found wasting valuable writing time on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all as Merryn Glover, so do reach out. It would be great to hear from you. Thank you, and goodbye. Happy writing.